there are 2 points I'd like to make about inspiration, 2 separate points. One is Nikola Tesla, the man who gave us alternating current and lit the world and gave us radio. Radio was invented by Nikola Tesla. Marconi had nothing to do with it. He stole. He was hired by Nikola Tesla he went to Nikola Tesla and asked for a job, and Nikola Tesla, being a generous man, gave this young man a job to help him, and his name was Marconi. And Marconi stole from Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla had written out how to create something called radio, how to do it electrically. And but Marconi took those papers behind Tesla's back and went to the trademark department and trademarked the idea, copyrighted it, or whatever you want to call it, and then put it out there into the public. And then the big companies came to Marconi and said, "Wow, we want to do this." So they invented radio. And so we're told that Marconi invented radio. No, he stole it from his master. He stole it from the man who gave him a job. And so the idea of inspiration, when Nikola Tesla was in his late 80s, very old man, he was given a big awards dinner in New York, and where the world was thanking him for all the incredible things that he had given to the world. And he said at the dinner, he gave a speech. Nikola Tesla spoke to the audience, and he said, "I have to tell you how I got my ideas to do what I've done." He said, "Every evening before bed, I will put a notepad on the little table next to my bed with a pen or a pencil." And he said, and every morning when I wake up, there's a written invention on the pad. Somebody comes into my room at night and writes down an invention. And the next morning I get up and it's all written out for me. And so I just go to my laboratory and follow the instructions, and I invented radio, or I invented alternating current, or I made this invention or that invention. And today, Nikola Tesla has lit the world and given us radio and all kinds of wonderful things this man gave to the world. But he said he was inspired by someone writing it down when he was sleeping. And so that's inspiration. To inspire comes from the word spire, to like perspire, inspire. And so spire is to breathe together. Breathing is spire. And so someone was breathing into him their ideas and coming from somewhere else. So that was one point I wanted to make about inspiration, is it doesn't necessarily come from you. It comes from out there. And second, it was I think it was called a TED talk on the web. The company is TED, and they invite different scientific people and different interesting people to give lectures, and they're usually only about 20 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And this lady doctor was very interesting. She talked about how the brain works. And why do humans have a brain? Why do all living things have a brain? And she said, your brain as a human has nothing to do with your creativity, with your ideas and your understanding of things. The brain is designed to do only one thing and one thing only. It is to control the mechanisms of your body. It controls the electrical impulses that go to your muscles so that you can walk, so you can run, so you can climb. It controls your body's muscles. It controls the movement of the human body. It controls the blinking of the eye, the swallowing of water. It controls everything in your body. It's nothing more than a controlling mechanism for your human body. But when it comes to your imagination, your creativity, she said, the ideas and concepts that come out of you, we have, as scientists, no idea in the world where your spiritual perceptions come from, where your thoughts come from. We have no idea at all. All that we know is it has nothing to do with your brain. Your brain does not give you inspiration. It merely takes care of your body. And so, therefore, where do your thoughts come from? When the great composers were composing the beautiful music, where do those ideas for the music come from? When you get people who are writing profoundly important books, and we say they were truly inspired, well, we know it wasn't in their mind, it came from outside of their brain. So it implies that our inspiration we are being overshadowed, is the term that I use. Overshadowed by some kind of a higher intelligence in the universe. Something out there is feeding us information, and it's called inspiration. We are being inspired. And some people are just naturally pick up on inspiration from out there, wherever it comes from, and they can create beautiful music, beautiful art. They can design rockets. They can design lasers, televisions, all kinds of strange and wonderful imaginations in the human mind, but it does not come from your brain. It comes from out there. It's happened to me so many times. In my life, I have been confronted by a problem that other people cannot handle. They can't figure out what to do, even in building and secular work. You're confronted by something that happens, and how do you fix it? Well, we don't know how to fix it. Well, some people are just inspired. They say, well, wait a minute, why don't you just do this and connect this here and then plug this in over here, and there it is. It works. Well, how did you know how to do that? I don't know. I just figured it out. It just occurred to me. Well, I was inspired to do it. And so when you listen to the composers of music, you can tell they were inspired. They didn't just read it out of a book. They knew how the mathematical tones work. They know how music works. And that's a incredibly dark subject, how the tones of music work and how to put them together to cause people to be inspired to do good things, to do bad, to do incredible things with music. Music can be inspirational. I mean, they play drums and certain kinds of music for the military, and it makes a man feel like he's a man. He can defend himself. He can defend the country because of this music, and it's just an inspiration for military inspiration. And of course, in Hollywood, you have what is called programmed music. It's called programming music. In a movie, when something evil is going to happen, you get a certain kind of music. When something is going to be funny and silly and to be laughed at, you get that kind of music behind it. So it's programming your mind with music so that you are inspired to get the idea out of the movie. So inspiration is not part of what the brain does. Inspiration comes from outside the brain, which means whatever it is out there, the way when I talk to audiences about God, I think it's important to define your terms, because so many times other people have other ideas about something you're talking about. If you talk about love, many different people have many different ideas about what that word means. Mm-hmm. And so when I talk about God, I believe that our human family, the human people on the earth, their brains are a computer, where it's an incredible computer. It's alive. And that computer runs on wiring, and we're told that our blood vessels and our nerves are miles and miles of nerve endings in our body. That's the wiring for the computer to all the body, to control the body. The brain needs to be able to send messages out to certain nerves for you to do certain things. And so the brain is a computer, and I believe that what we call God is some kind of a, for a lack of a better term, some sort of a Wi-Fi unit, whereby you can have 100 different computers in a room, and they're all on a one Wi-Fi unit, which means all 100 computers can be doing 100 different things, tuning into different places and doing different things, and they're all getting it from one source, from a Wi-Fi unit. So in my mind, I think of some sort of an electromagnetic force in the universe that is brilliant, is highly intelligent, is extraordinarily well informed, and it is communicating with us like a Wi-Fi does to computers, because all of us have brains in their computers. And so something is guiding our destiny. Something out there is guiding our thinking. And if you've ever seen a flock of birds, large flocks of birds with thousands of birds, and you see them all flying in one direction, and instantly, in an absolute 1 second instant, they all turn, all the birds turn and go a different way. And they all then flip back and turn and go a different way. How come all of the birds knew to turn at that very 1 second point, and they all turned and went a different way together, like the fish do? We call it schools of fish. And I've seen it where the fish are thousands of fish, and they're all sailing along together, and instantly, all of a sudden, they all go in a different direction. How is that possible? Each one of them will, can go wherever they want. No, they can't. They go together, and when they're supposed to turn, they will. Everybody will turn instantly. It's some kind of an inspiration, which I tend to think is something like some sort of a Wi-Fi unit. I'm just using that very loosely. Some kind of a communication with a higher mind in the universe that men have called God. When you understand the great composers during the Middle Ages, the great composers in the late and the Renaissance composers, if you understand what they were doing, they're not just picking sounds that sound nice. No, it was mathematical. It was very deep understanding of the creation of the universe, the breathing in and the breathing out of the universe. It was a very extraordinary story about how the great composers did what they did and composed the music. It had to do with an occult, heavy-duty science of vibrations, rhythms, and how and they could change the whole concept of a nation by music. I mean, the Germans used the music from Wagner. And it inspired, and America has music that inspires the nation because there is some kind of a mathematical science to it. There's a science to putting music together. And the great composers realize that, and today the master musicians today know that you need to understand how the universe vibrates and how the Pythagoreans, they understood the mathematics of the universe and how to write music. It's an incredible story of how to be inspired. You have to know what you're doing when you're a composer putting music together, because it's going to affect the brain waves of the people of the world when they hear it. And it's really an incredible story. And I've heard people explaining how the great masters wrote their music. It's very, very deep. It's not just listening to pretty sound. They did it with the vibrational. They knew how it would be vibrating in your mind and what your brain would do with this particular vibratory frequency. One incredible story about how the brain communicates with the heavens, and the heavens communicate with you. And we know that the planets and the sun and the moon affects your brain. And the planets all have a resonant frequency, and each one of those planets, when you were born, affected your mind. When you were born, you came out of your mother into the world, and the sun has a profound electrical field on the earth that is causing incredible stuff to happen. Our weather, the moon affects people. It affects the female. It affects her periods once a month is caused by the moon. The moon pulls the oceans of the world. We know that the moon affects the oceans. Why? Because they're water, and the moon affects water. This is why your body is like 76% water. So how does the moon affect you at the full moon? Well, it causes you to get silly and crazy, sometimes really crazy. So we call you a lunatic. Why? Because the moon is affecting your blood. It's affecting your brain. The vibrations in your mind are being affected by the sun, the moon, Mars, Jupiter. And so women are from Venus and men are from Mars, meaning our minds operate differently because of the way we're born and who we are and the vibrations in the brain. It's a very big subject about inspiration. And the inspiration comes from out there.